officially recorded now. If anyone wants to have, if anyone wants to check this session, you guys can visit this particular area on YouTube. We have two channels with regarding to um, content where you can get to know about the universities of what we have. So in this, you would see the two channels which actually come forward. It's called IMC Study Medicine and also IMC Study Medicine or IMC Campus Study Medicine. These two which are here, right? So you can basically go through this. You can find enough of content of our sessions. You also, if you go to this particular area, try to follow us. If anyone has a language barrier and you would want to participate in our sessions which were done in Sinhala or which were done in Tamil, you have got access to all those. So I mean, it's a very straightforward thing of whatever you have, right? So what are we here for? We are here to understand about careers, opportunities, what medical professionals are going to have, and how do we select a particular university, etc. Now, just to show you on what we are going to go ahead, I would like to take everyone through a journey of the website what we have, right? In this website of what we have, everyone should know that all the materials are having an easy access to all of you guys here. So the history of the college, about the universities, you can select the universities based on your preferred country of choice. If you are running short of your results, okay, you know that there is a minimum result requirement needed. If you are running short of that, you can go into pre-medicine, which is here. Also, we have the medical licensing possibilities. So these are certain things, guys, which basically you can take a look at. Okay, so this is something which you have to be familiar with. I'll just show you an example. If we go to universities and if we go to Witten State Medical University, right? You want to know about the history, whatever. Okay, guys, there are more students joining in. Let me just add them. The ranking, how many Sri Lankans are studying here, how do I apply for a scholarship, what is the English requirement, what's my career pathway. You guys have said something called a dual qualification. What's a dual qualification, right? Can I see a video of the university? Yes, there you go. So what are the unique areas? 350 Sri Lankans plus here. Recognition, facilities, accommodation, types of accommodation, the services provided by the office in Colombo or in Belarus, and many more. And after all this is done, if you would like to see some photographs and some testimonials, we have actually displayed it below here. Okay, testimonials and photographs. It is basically displayed here like this, right? So let's start off with this. First of all, while I welcome everyone, I would like students to think about these questions which I have asked here. Okay, these questions. These are the questions which students will actually want to know. Can you go through this and see uh, Dr. Umayanga, I have sent you a message. If you can just check that. Okay. So do I need to go to a university? Which university offers what I need? How long will I have to go to a university? Okay. What is my choice of university correct? You know, I have some craziest opinions given by 1% of students who come and tell me that their astrologer has said you have to study in Malaysia. So it's not because he's qualified for Malaysia or his A levels are qualifying for Malaysia. The astrologer has said that you have a luck if you go and study medicine in Malaysia. The astrologer doesn't know that to enter Malaysia, you need 3 Bs for A levels. Now, these type of work also is going on. So we have to clarify this. How will I pay for my education? Will it be easy to find a job? Okay. What about internships? Okay. Um, okay. So we will have Dr. Umayanga on board in the next 15 minutes, guys. Roughly, these are the things what you will go into. Now, let me get you an introduction to what we have here. It's all about how do we actually get to know about what's the most impactful thing which is going to happen to you, because you guys have come and sacrificed yourself this time, the Saturday mornings of what you have with us, to speak to some of our doctors. We have Dr. Umayanga on board already. We will hear from him in the next 15 minutes. We will also uh, have Dr. Burhan on board as well. Now, our whole purpose is to answer these things by the end of the day, that you understand the summary of what we are going to go ahead with. Okay. All of y'all are at some part of your life cycle at this picture which you see here. Without you guys knowing, if you actually are in your 20s and you assume you're going to live for 60 years, okay, so 20, 40, 60, just assume that you're at your 20s and just understand that 1/3 of your productive life is actually finished. Now you are at an important junction to actually make a career changing decision. We have students who have made such awesome, fantastic decisions with the opportunities they have here with us. When you have these opportunities, these are some of the things which you have to actually figure out with a university office like IMC. So studying medicine is all about a commitment, a serious commitment, that it's almost like you're having an affair. What's the affair? It's a serious status quo. It's a serious affair. So first of all, if anyone is here who wants to study medicine, and if you would actually refer our advertisements, if you would refer our messages, you would understand, guys, that we are not that keen to speak to biomedical related or bioengineering related or things like that. We want to first deal with the students who want to become doctors. If you are enough for a serious commitment, that is awesome. Already you have made that commitment. If you selected bioscience for your A levels, that means you knew something. If you are sitting here, you are expecting something. You are ready to go with whatever which is going to actually be played here. Okay, a question for my viewers. We have over 40 participants here. Does anyone know who is this gentleman? Devindi, Himasha, Atifa, Anumi, Ashani, Asjad, Azmir, Damika, Dilshan, Hafsa, Hasaka, Ishani, Jayasundara, Lakshit, Majida, Malinka, Mariam, Neha, and the list goes on. Okay. I just didn't read all the names. I just went and read some names. Yes. Senat correct. Hasaka correct. This is the person who is synonym with this particular thing. Now, there is a lot of controversy with regarding to Edison and his inventions and what he did, why he did, the issues with Tesla. That's not what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about what positive motivation do we have with him. There is a very questionable number which said that he tried the electric bulb 300 times. That number can be actually an awkward number, because I don't think he tried it that amount. While there are some books which quote 900 times. It is not about the number, but it is about how many times he tried. Well, that is something which you already know. But something which we don't know is the biggest question mark as to why on earth did he keep trying that? I know he wanted to do it. I know people were ridiculing him on this. But why did he want to actually try that? Is because of the word fear. F-E-A-R, fear. යාට යම්කිසි බයක් තිබ්බා. Okay, යාට යම්කිසි බයක් තිබ්බා. You know, ask this question from your parents or grandparents, that way back 20, especially from your parents or grandparents, many years ago, whether they studied the exams under power, like did they have electricity? No. They studied in the dark with a lamp or a candlelight or something like that. Do you know, this guy, he was scared of darkness. He was scared of the dark. He wanted a permanent solution for this. That fear urged him. So, what's your urging? What's your motivation actually to become a doctor? You can't come and tell me that you want to become a doctor because you want to be rich. Many doctors become rich very late. It's a process. It's not something like a luck fortune where you get rich overnight. You can't say that you want to become a doctor because you want fame. You won't get fame very early. It takes time. You can't say you want to become a doctor because you want to get respect from people. It takes time. What's your urge? What is going to motivate you to become a doctor? I have heard a lot of students who have come and told me the urge of they becoming a doctor is when their favorite aunt or their favorite uncle had cancer and they couldn't treat him because they didn't have money, or there was no proper opportunity, or they didn't have knowledge about it, and the uncle or the auntie or the mom or the dad or the grandmother passed away. And suddenly a fire is building up inside the student's mind. I need, if no one is going to do this to me, I'm going to find a qualification which does this to me. So we are looking at the final product of a medical student not becoming a doctor. Guess what? Becoming an oncologist. So it's like, if I ask a student, you want to become a doctor? He might reply me, don't be stupid. Don't ask me a stupid question if I want to become a doctor. I want to become a cancer specialist. Come on, let's talk realistic. I want to get the highest qualification in this. I don't want to just become a doctor. I want more than a doctor. Doctor is not enough for me. Are you a person like that? Or are you just a person who wants to become a doctor because, you know, for the fame of it? You have to pick that now. Okay. So looking into all this stuff, as we discussed, it's about the life cycle of how you actually go through. As I said, if you are going to be productive for 60 years, 1/3 is over if you're 20 years. Okay. 1/3 is over if you're 20 years. This is something which a medical student needs to have in his mind, in his head, right? See what type of a brain, what type of a mouth, what type of a stomach, legs, heart, ears. This is what makes it. More than what I'm going to talk about, this is what Dr. Umayanga and Dr. Burhan who will speak. You will gather some fruitful insights with regarding to this. Okay. You know how much doctors earn abroad? Something really funny. This is actually an indication which came in Sri Lankan newspapers as well as in Canadian newspapers, that doctors had at a time gone on strike saying that they are paid too much. This is the first time in history. This is the first time in history that this was done. Now, they had got all facilities and they had gone on strike because the government has paid this amount in Canadian dollars. If you want, later go on Google and check how much is this. This is basically going to be 55 to 60 lakhs a month. How many iPhones can you buy? Think of it like that. How many iPhones can you buy? 55 lakhs a month. How many poor students can you sponsor to study medicine abroad in your school? Do you have family members who have financial issues and you want to take the lead to help people? Why don't you help yourself first and then help others if you want to actually consider this? Okay. So the final part of this is, before we just switch on to the next couple of things, how things keep on changing. These are various photographs to show you how things are actually changing around the world. We are living in a selfie era because of the age of people changing. People want to demand technology like virtual reality. You should select universities which are actually having these type of technology, because if vehicles from this era to this era can change like this, and mobile phones can change like this, and classrooms have to change like this. Today, some of the government schools, they have smart boards. It's awesome to see, right? You have to have a university which actually gets you on board with the novel technology of whatever you have. When all this is done, you have to understand that the future classrooms are going to be equipped with these type of technologies. Now, if you want to talk about Belarus, we have our classrooms. We have our classrooms equipped with it's a touch screen thing called Anatomage. It's in the Grodno State Medical University. Pretty expensive. It's about 60,000 USD. You can type Anatomage on Google and see. Very, very sophisticated technological device. What is there? Also, the next level of studying human anatomy can be like this. Now, we want to create doctors who are very futuristic. That's the purpose of what I'm basically looking at. So, in order, what IMC has come into is we are basically there to help you with all these stuff, and we are there to make you achieve what you call is a doctor dream. This is Ketmi from Visaka Vidyalaya, who is one of our own very own students, who is a fifth year student now in the Vitebsk State Medical University of Belarus, right? This is something which we want to discuss with you and what we would covering. Selecting a good medical university for 2021. So we have the list of universities. How do I become a consultant? How do I find out about medical licensing exams, the salaries and the benefits of doctors? How to find out by becoming a doctor through O levels or A levels? How do I get to know about a medical specialization program? How do I work in US, UK, Australia? Now, to make this much more clear, we have Dr. Umayanga, who I will be inviting in the next 2 minutes to come on board, because he's all the way joining us from England, and we thank him for joining us. In about 2 minutes, we will have him on board, who will be discussing on some of the aspects of what is it for a person from a little island down where the Indian Ocean is there, called Sri Lanka, to leave their family, leave their friends, leave all their relations, leave all their plans in Sri Lanka, go and study in a different country, and from there onwards find their career path and how they secure it. And then you would turn back and see you actually have done a great deal of work. So we have a range of things which we will help you out with. So we have pre-medical programs. If you actually don't meet the specific requirements to sometimes enter a medical university, the university will take you through a course. Don't worry about it. Don't be disheartened. There are many professionals who have been doing this, and this is one of the most popular methods in the West as well. We also look into some of the pre-medical programs which I used to talk about. I used to compare it with some of the programs which are available at Harvard and Yale. If you can see it in this particular slide, right? So every university in the world has their own pre-medical option. If you want to know about our pre-medical option, you can go on IMC, get into that caption which I showed you, pre-medicine, and you can get the information which you want on that. Then we have some of the students whom we've been working with in Belarus. Okay, these are some of the people who we have been working in Belarus. And you would see that now this particular gentleman is from Royal College, Anish Samidon. We have, if you look at this picture, he's from Ananda. We have various students from various schools who have joined us, and they were once exposed to a cadeva like this, and so on. So think very sharp. Do you want to go through a program which actually kills a lot of time, or do you want to shorten it, or do you want to do a pre-medicine? It depends on the time period you want to invest in yourself. Remember, 1/3 of your life is over already. I repeat, 1/3 of your life is over already. So make a wise decision to save money, to save time, to help your parents to make a good decision. And we also would like to introduce that we have a qualification which gives you a bachelor's degree, a master's, and a doctorate. This is the triple qualification which gives you 3 certificates. This is the certificate you would see from UGC and the certificate which the students actually get. This is Dr. Dinesh from Belarus, who completed his studies. And he has a triple qualification at the moment. All those students who are sitting with me here, assuming that you are going to join international medical campuses, universities this year, 2021, you would be finishing your career somewhere in 2027, 28. All of you guys, I assume, will do a 1-year internship and you will just kill time here and there. So we are looking at 2028, 29, 30. So I call this concept to be ready for 2030. By 2030, you should be multi-qualified. That's my whole objective. So by saying all this, Dr. Umayanga, can we have you on board? There you go. I'm going to stop my share at the moment, and we are going to spotlight. And I have Dr. Burhan on board as well. We are going to add the spotlight for Dr. Umayanga. There you go. That's Dr. Umayanga. Hi, Dr. Umayanga. Very good morning to you from that end. While it's afternoon, yeah, it's almost getting to afternoon here. Dr. Umayanga, can you, if you don't mind, unmute yourself a bit? Or should I do it? Wait, let me see. Yeah, I think I should do it. Yeah. Okay, right. Done.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, awesome. I can hear you.
All right. Okay. So that was very informative and really went really something, and it was sort of very honest ideas that you shared. It's just, I've not met you before, but that was really good. So especially about mentioning about the commitment wise, and most of the people sort of think about going to specializations before doing the internship and all that. So that was really good. So yeah. So my name is Umayanga. I'm actually working in the UK at the moment. So tell you a bit about my background. So I sort of did my A-levels in 2006 and straight away joined VSMU um, and did 6 years there and came back to Sri Lanka. And so after that, I had to wait like 1.5 years approximately to clear the ERPM and then start the internship. Um, then I was at Norelia Base Hospital. Was it the base hospital now? It was the District General Hospital. After completing 1 year of internship, I was sort of given post-intern appointments to Jaffna, which I sort of stayed only for 8 months. The main reason was that this post I got, it was medical legal, that means JMO job, which I didn't like. So I resigned at that point. I was actually working towards my way to Australia with the AMC examinations. And unfortunately, I was sort of not qualified enough at that particular time to go to Australia because I didn't have any formal anesthesia training or ICU training. So then I had to take the Plan B exam to come to UK. So that's been a bit of a complicated journey for me because I forgot to mention that during my pre-intern year, while I'm waiting for internship, I served the Sri Lanka Air Force for 1 year as well. So that's something that I missed.
You were
And
in the Sri Lankan Air Force.
oh yes, as a pre-intern medical officer. So I had to undergo a training for 4 to 6 months, and then work another 7 months in Batticaloa SLAF station. So yeah, that part I actually forgot to mention. So I myself, I struggled a lot with my choosing my correct path, and I think looking back at what I went through, I think it's highly rewarding because I sort of exposed myself to various platforms really. So starting from Belarus, it was a first-hand, a different experience studying 6 years abroad and sort of away from your family and friends. And as Intikab said, it was a huge decision at that particular time because not like this that modern days, it was still quite new, people going abroad for studies. And then Belarus actually kept us safe for 6 years. That was the main important thing um, because it was so closer to Europe, and then we had almost good airlines and all that to sort of travel. The university was flexible and all that. So I'm forever grateful for ESMU from that time. It's kept us safe for 6 years. And again, as you mentioned, you probably all the participants, students probably have spent 1/3 of their life already. And I would have been more happier if I could have taken some decisions I've taken in my life if I had someone to guide me through the process. For example, selecting a board examination. Like I went blindly with Australian Medical Council exams, and then realizing that it's not the sort of the correct pathway for me. So it's in a way that IMC and all that, the organization itself is just really organized, and they're helping. That's something really good, that I see. So coming to like sort of making the path to England, it was not that hard because anyone who needs to sort of practice medicine in England, they have to have the GMC registration. So that's something similar to the SLMC registration you get. So the pathway is very clear if you go to the website. So you have to do the PLAB 1 and PLAB 2. And the university degree you get from VSMU, the MD course I did, it's accepted by the Australian as well as the UK General Medical Council, excuse me. And once you do the PLAB exams, which is part 1 is an MCQ exam and the part 2 is an OSCE, then all you need to do is show your qualifications. Like, for example, I have had to show my internship to sort of get my full registration. If you don't have an internship, you can actually apply for the provisional registration, which allows you to do the internship in the UK. But I'm not very sure the number of people who have done that as a foreign graduates, but there are a few actually each year who gets placements without the internships for the UK Foundation program. It's a different pathway really. So after you start the first job here, there is a lot of support here in the UK. You have your medical insurance company, you have a lot of support, and you have consultants who help you, and then there are a lot of input to your career, like unlike in Sri Lanka. That's something I saw the big difference, the biggest difference there. The working wise, you always have a consultant behind you looking at your work. And I'm now at the moment I'm almost qualified. I'm due to qualify in, like, get my specialist registration in August, but still I have a very senior qualified doctor looking after me if I have any problems or doubts. So basically they will come and ask what's going on, or maybe if I have a question or problem regarding a patient, I go and discuss with them. But this has been like the verge of my specialty, like I'm almost there, but still I have that support. So that's something like really good thing in the UK, which I didn't actually get much in Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, you have to go and ask, and yeah, and sometimes the consultant seems they're not really bothered. But here, yeah, it's safe practice all the time. So I was asked to discuss a bit more about the medical education in the UK. If I'm not mistaken, I'm just looking at, yeah. So the medical education in the UK, it's again, it's 5 years MBBS program or MBCHB programs. And as Intikam said, they have their own pre-med program as well. So for example, they do a 1 year of BSc psychology, biomedicine, or neuroscience, or any medical related MSc, BSc first, and then get admission into the medical program. And there are some group of students actually make it through directly from A levels, direct admissions to medicine. I think, from my own words, getting into the UK university directly for UK students, I think it is more competitive than Sri Lankan A levels. The main reason I'm saying is basically if you get enough number of A's and the Z score in Sri Lankan education, like after with the A levels, there is a guarantee that you get an admission to the medical college. Maybe depend on your merit, it can go up and down, but still you will get somewhere, like, you can go to Rajarat or maybe the Eastern University. They all have medical degree programs which are good. But in the UK, even if you have 3 A's for the A levels, and then what happens, you have to sort of face a board of sort of examiners and interviewers again. Like, you have to go for an interview, face that, and sort of show that you are the best candidate. So I asked one of my friends who actually worked with me, who graduated here, why they have such system. So again, the main reason they have this system is just medicine is something that you do commit for a long time. If you look at the other undergraduate programs, maybe in Sri Lanka, maybe here, it is like most of the time it goes for about 3 to 4 years. And in medicine, it usually goes up to 5 to 6 years. And undergraduate specialty itself, it's slightly specialized than the other fields. For example, I've met a lot of friends who have done engineering, who then sort of did MBAs and then did CIMA, and sort of they have a wide open range. While if you do study medicine, you have to find an exit through the medicine, like you have to find a specialty. So I think that's one reason why they sort of not entertain to get people who are not committed. And obviously the job is stressful. So within the very first few years, when you start working as a house officer, or maybe FY1 equivalent here, there will be plenty of times that you feel like, oh, I can't do it. This is not what I signed up for. You will have that feeling, and then you will think of, oh, I'm quitting medicine. But most of the time, let me tell that sort of thoughts have crossed my mind many times. But to tell you that there is no exit from medicine once you're in it. So it's like this thing that you're carrying your whole life till you get maybe retired, or maybe after retirement you might still do working. And that's the beauty of medicine, because even if you're 70, 75, pension, retired happily, but still you can come and work. As long as your brain and hands work, you can still prescribe medication. So in a way, it's a lifelong career, I would say. So which is quite good, especially when the lockdown happens. The COVID pandemic hit UK. The almost every people, like doctors who got retired, they came back to serve. So that's so in that way, if you're thinking, it's sort of something that like a social service. So the main thing I learned throughout my practice, it's been like since 2012, it's been like 9 years now. Wow, yeah, one more closer to decade, yeah. So what I realized, it's most of the time in Sri Lanka, the first thing I realized, it was a service, because you work in a hospital which is like far remote from your home, and you see like 60 patients a day in a casualty ward, and you realize that you are underpaid, overworked. You get my first intern salary was like 36,000 rupees. I think Burhan might have received a bit more than that, I hope. So it's more like a service. So, and then you carry on, and as you go along the way, you can actually make money and get stable. So looking at everything behind, so you get financial stability, you get career satisfaction, and again, you have to have everything right, commitment, and all the things together, sort of to make things working. So coming back to the UK education, so I mentioned about 5 years, the interview that they have. The interview's purpose is mainly to sort of select the best team who can actually commit 5 years of undergraduate education. Not many people here in the UK want to do that unless they have enough family support, because I think for local students, the most recent stats, I can't actually remember now, it was around £9,000 per year, like annum, for the UK students to study medicine. And most of the students, they do apply for a student loan, and from there they will pay that after they get the job, with a very low interest, or without no interest. So that's how most of the people sort of manage to do it. Again, the main reason again is that in Sri Lanka, people, the students and the parents are so like sort of have caring about the children, and they do pay for the maximum like amount of the undergraduate studies and all. But in the UK, after about 16 years of age, they don't care. The parents sort of say like, you find your own way. So that's why the student loans and everything are there. And 5 years of commitment, most of the students, like most of the people, won't like to do it. They just want to sort of do a 3-year degree program, just get a job, and then carry on with it. So in the UK, I think selection to medical schools is quite harder, as what I understand. And obviously, again, they won't take you in if you're not committed enough. So I know one of my partners, one of my GP partners, and her son got into the medicine, not to a good university, like it's the University of Liverpool. So he was expecting to get admissions to Cambridge, Oxford, but the main reason was so this particular person at age of 17 or 18 had a CV and had done voluntary work with British Heart Foundation, have done ambulance work, this, that. So he had a CV which showed that he's so committed to his career in the future times. Unless like when he gets stressed out, he won't burn out, and he still would carry on with it. But he didn't get admission into Oxford or Cambridge. He got University of Liverpool, which is not too bad, but it's not Oxford or Cambridge. So that's hard. That's the a bit of a difficulty and competition to the universities in the UK to study medicine. And when it comes to foreign students, number one, I'm not very sure how many sort of seats are available annually. So that's one thing. The second thing would be it's quite expensive, to be honest. Like I myself would never be able to afford that, because usual algorithm is if a UK person pay 9,000, for us it will be like 3 times more than that. So it will be like 27,000 pounds a year. In that, in Sri Lankan rupees, I don't know how much. It's like the pound is like close to the 300 rupees now. So yeah, it's a huge amount of money. And living in England, it's very expensive. It's if you don't have a proper job, if you don't have an established family here to help you and support, it's quite hard. Living expenses can go for a student. A usual normal accommodation would cost maybe like 120 pounds in Lancaster area where I live, which is like up north, which is cheaper. In London, this can go for about £1,000 really per month. So here it's around 400. In London, it's 1,000, and then obviously a lot of students. When I was a student, I thought there is a possibility of doing a part-time job and study medicine. No, it's not. It's impossible. If you are in full-time education, you have to do medicine full-time, and then there will be no time for part-time jobs really. So that's about it. Are there any questions, like anything that you want to clarify? I think I covered most of the ground really. Do I need to talk about anything else? Someone can put a message, please. So
This is Amila from IMC. Doctor, can you explain how competitive to get an internship now? Let's say if they have a medical degree from a recognized university, how
mhm.
competitive it is to get a slot after getting the provisional registration for internship F1, and what are the things that they would look at?
Right. So the internship in the UK, so it's possible, but I've not come across many candidates who have done it. The most candidates choose this path where they do the 1 year internship program, which is where you gain like sort of unconditional registration, like you don't have any restrictions, so you can work with the FY1. If you're coming for an internship in the UK, well, all you need to have is speaking. If you're coming from Belarus, let's say you have completed your medical degree, you should have a dean's letter. That means maybe the rector or the dean from the university. That is basically good standing sort of a certificate. And you have to complete the foundation application, and then to have this situational judgment test where you will be getting not the clinical questions. It's just the day-to-day things at the hospital. For example, how do you prioritize things in your life, for example. That sort of test, it's everywhere now. It's not for the medicine, it's for all the other specialties, just to find out how you understand logistics, and how effective you are when it comes to working environment. So they will ask about, put different scenarios, like, okay, fine, this man has a chest pain, this man has asthma attack, this one, and so you have to sort of say, I'll attend the chest pain one first, respiratory one second, or other way around. So you have to make sure that you have to make a plan, and then you have to justify why you're doing it. So that's an exam that they have to do, which is simple. Just you need to practice some scenarios and then some theory behind it, and then you can get a score on that. So once you have sort of done that, the exam, and when you have enough qualification, all the requirements, then what happens is you will be put on a national database with the UK candidates, and you will getting a position. So at the moment, I don't think the UK itself sort of make enough medical doctors from their own universities. That's why always we have the option. Now, I would say when I came first in 2016, they did not have much places, but now per day I might get like 6-7 emails asking sort of there are available opportunities. Would you like to come and do this job, this, that, and like there are plenty of jobs at the moment. I think this will go for about another, maybe hopefully for 10 years, because it's all happened with the Brexit. Now, they're not sort of getting the doctors in from the EU. If they come to UK to work, they have to go through the same registration process as like us. And most of the European countries, their first language is not English. So, and on the other hand, we learn English for about good 25 years of our life. So we sort of have an upper hand. And one other thing I forgot is just you have to get the IELTS and the OET as well for the registration. So in summary, basically, there are jobs. You probably have a higher chance of getting a job here now for about next 6 to 7 years, at least for about 10 years. Dean's letter, medical degree, then you need IELTS and the passing the exam, and then you'll be put into the national sort of database, and then you'll be given the post. It's a quite similar system in Sri Lanka, really, but it's all sort of well organized. Right. So that's the intern pathway. You get the foundation year 1 then, and then after you complete 1 year, you get the foundation year 2. So if you have an internship from abroad, for example, like me, I had my internship from Sri Lanka. So I just did not do the FY1 here. I just straight away came to FY2 or higher jobs. So I came as an emergency medicine doctor to UK. So that's where I started. So I didn't have to do that SJT and all this process. So I sort of joined from there and applied for the specialty training. Right. Any other things? So it's
for F1 training, would they look at a combination of disciplines in medicine and surgery both in terms of internship?
Internship, yeah, that's a good question. Right. So my internship, I had 6 months of pediatrics, 6 months of general surgery, and I didn't have a formal medical job. So in Sri Lanka, the system is quite different. I would encourage people to have an internship with 6 months medicine, 6 months surgery, because medicine you learn a lot, and in sort of doing another subspecialty would sort of it's all right, but the difference is in the UK you get surgery and medicine sort of 4 months each for about 8 months, so that's essential for all the FY1s, and you get another 4 months of something else, your choice, like maybe obs and gynae, maybe like pediatrics. So that's the main difference I see. So it's just Sri Lanka can do like 4 months, but again, I think 4 months is not enough, especially in working conditions in Sri Lanka without being sort of much support and supervising. So yeah, so I would recommend surgery and medicine. But if you have a Sri Lankan internship, like doing obs and gynae plus pediatrics, but still people do get registration. Yeah, it have not made any difference for the candidates. No.
Doctor, just a small another question. This is Amila again. And if you have a registration on General Medical Council UK, is that valid for USA, New Zealand, Australia? And if provided they have a job in place in those countries?
So very good question. I think now UK accepts New Zealand, Australia, and USA who have the registration. They can come and work in the UK. If you have the GMC registration, for a fact, I know there are people who actually migrate into Australia and New Zealand without any problem, without any trouble. They get directly 2 or 3 years visa, and they straight away go into hospital jobs, or maybe like a GP job. And for Canada and USA, I think they have to do an exam. I'm not very sure, unless you have like a specialist arrangement, like if you're a specialist and if that medical board invites you, yeah, that's possible. But the usual pathway is because one of my friends actually who's a GP here, and he's a Canadian citizen, and he wants to move to Canada once he can complete this training. So he had to do the MCCE or whatever the exams they called. I'm not very sure about the US pathway really, but you can actually, it's not hard to go to Canada from UK as a GP, but I'm not sure about the hospital doctor posts. But Australia and New Zealand for sure, they straight away, even now they recruit, and they always advertise, they like UK doctors, they take them quite easily. There's no much of a hassle for them.
Doctor, now if you have the registration on GMC UK, then again as a specialist, you can come to Sri Lanka and apply for the board certification, right, doctor?
That depends, because Sri Lankan system, it's something
Totally different.
it's just a bit of a, there are a bit of I think it's a bit of conflicts and all that. So to come to Sri Lanka and work, you need to have the specialist registration, consultant specialist registration with the SLMC. So most of the time, people who go there, senior registrars for the postgraduate program, they return back and they get the board certification and they go back. So there's no problem there. Now, I think for a person like me, if I want to come back to Sri Lanka and get my self-registered as a consultant, I probably would have to give a very good reason, like, boom, this, I'm like a very big surgeon or someone, or maybe like a great physician. Sri Lanka wouldn't survive without me. It's really hard. I think Sri Lanka is not a place which sort of accepts or welcome the people. Even if I had to get registration, I might have to spend like 3-4 weeks to even to get an appointment. I'm not sure. No, I think it should be possible, because they have the foreign pathways. Like they accept the most of the trainees go to UK and Australia, come back, they work as consultants. But if you want to come back and serve Sri Lanka, I have no idea how much that will work. So, but again, it is, if you have the SLMC, you still have the chance to sort of come and work. So for me, it will be all right. I can work somewhere, but I'm not very sure whether I'll be a consultant. It's worthwhile checking actually, because maybe the rules have changed. I'm not sure now. I still think I have a very negativity, like negative feeling towards that. I may not get that. So yeah. So anything else, Amila, I can help you with today?
Students, do you have any questions?
They can type if they like. I'll pick and then sort of put the things in if there anything interesting. No, that's good. So again, as Intikab said, for all the students, I'm saying is just yeah, there you go. All right. So it says that it's a commitment, and you have to choose wisely. You have a pathway. Don't spend time like I did, selecting where to go, what to do next. Trust me, I've seen almost every country to migrate when I was a student from my, I think, 50 onwards, because I had a very negative feeling about Sri Lankan system. So it's quite usual to develop that sort of attitude, because your country not welcome you back. There's so much hassle that foreign graduates go through. That was the negative feelings, like ideas I had, though I managed to pass the exams and all that. Now this question, could I work as a consultant as I complete medical degree in Belarus? It's totally depend on you. So as Intikab said, you will be a doctor first. So that's the first thing. You have to do the internship. And then USA or Canada. So then it's the same pathway. Then what I would recommend to is fast case, just you have to sort of make your plan. For example, now you want to work in USA or Canada, so that means your pathway would be at the USMLE or Canadian exams. So when you start your medical education, when you're in about third year or fourth year, you get the USMLE material and you just try to get like 1 or 2 parts out. And then once you have that evidence towards the end of your education, then you can actually go and apply for a residency in the US. And after you do a certain amount of numbers of years in residency, then you can actually apply for specialization. It's possible, but you have to always think about, you have to start at that very beginning point rather than thinking about the whole consultant picture later. I'm not discouraging, but again, you have to have that initial skills as a maybe like a medical doctor and then specialize. So it's possible, but you have to plan your things very carefully. Maybe like because of the USM, you have to start a bit earlier because it's like have 3 parts. It's 10 years of studying before you get paid at least 1 lakh. Okay. Is it ready? Is iPhone? Okay. A lot of people in what's that? KTHWR streams earn so much more early on itself. Other streams, okay. Is it worth being a doctor in the money sense? Other. It depends what you want with your life. So if you see like it's like a what do you call that, a service, yeah, medicine is the first thing you do, and you have a great career satisfaction, right? So last week I basically sort of brought a man from dead in my practice, collapsed on the floor, 40 minutes of CPR on the floor, and then yeah, the patient was okay when the paramedics came. So that was good. Got a letter from the patient saying that you saved my life. You were sort of doing at that. It's just like it's really rewarding. But after 10 years of studying, I think there's a bit of a discrepancy in numbers. Ready. So it's 6 years of studies, yeah, and you spend like a certain amount of money if you study abroad. And internship, you might get paid around 50,000 rupees now. And as soon as you sort of in Sri Lanka, as soon as you sort of get the post-intern qualification with the overtime, you make closer to 200,000 rupees. Because I remember like as soon as I finished my internship, the salary went up to about 130,000. Other fields, yes, they can earn more, but thinking about long run, if you become a specialist, you will outrun them very easily. Yeah. So you want to be rich. You can start a business. it's always possible. So you will have substantial amount of money and then you can invest on something. Right. Hemanti Navaratna says, if I apply for MD with biomedical degree, okay, can I still have a chance to work in Sri Lanka? So it depends. So are you eligible to register with Sri Lankan Medical Council? That's the first thing. So because of the new A-level thingy. So if that's the case, you can actually come and register and get a job in Sri Lanka. That's possible, I think. Then how much does a doc get paid UK just after completing the MD? All right, that's again a good question. So if by 1 year you get around closer to 30,000 pounds per annum, so after tax that will be around 2,000 pounds, which is closer to 500,000 rupees in Sri Lanka. And after that, whatever you do, it depends on you. If I really wanted to earn like massively thundering money, can do, and it's solely upon you. It's just for me, when I first came into UK, I was doing an emergency job. It depends on the specialty and where you work and all that. There's a lot of factors in it and how many hours you work. So I was doing emergency job and I got paid really well. It was good money. I really, really regret that I gave up that job and came to training. So specialty training, especially in general practice, much less than the usual money I used to make. But after you get the qualification, right, that money I earn afterwards, it's much more higher than the money I was making there. So it's a bit of a commitment. So you just have to sacrifice things for about good 3 years, and then yeah, you can go with go for a very good salary. Yeah, it's I would say there will be a time you will have enough money and you will have nothing, like you have enough money and you will not know where to spend it. Yeah, there will be situations like that. So you can be that person. And again, if you are too lazy and if you really want to work only 20 hours a week, you can do that and have sufficient money. That's no problem. Yeah. So how much? Okay, you are saying numbers when you did intern in Sri Lanka. Yes, this is in 2013, 2014. Now, I think with inflation and everything, the numbers have probably gone much. I think Burhan can actually give a bit of an idea on that. And I can ask my friends who actually work in Sri Lanka, because if you're a grade 2 medical officer, it's closer to 200,000, I'm for sure. questions? Anything else? I think it's all. This is in as government. So you do the government job, you can do a private practice. So that will come additional money. I've never did private practice in Sri Lanka. All right. Some good questions, really. Is that all then?
Hello, Umayanga. How are you?
Burhan,
Basically, I think with what you actually said, I think it's pretty much still the same. I mean, with regard to the salary, I guess with full OT, that is full overtime, I think it still comes up to around 192, 193,000.
That's good. Because
depends on
which
what you're working again, because some consultants don't actually like to give us full OT. And I'm sure you know how the system is, where we don't actually get to do the full OT for the whole month, but we only get to claim for a month. I mean, for a day. So because of that, it's a little bit of a problematic thing. And as you correctly said, that it all depends on why you have chosen this field. And I guess money is not the most important thing. I think it's a service. And I like the way you said how you got that appreciation from the person that you actually saved. I mean, that's enough, I guess. I think that speaks words. And especially for me also, I think it was during internship I realized that doing what we get to do in Sri Lanka and what we get in return from patients is the most significant thing about this job. Especially where I was in Balapitia, where patients, they couldn't afford to get basic medicines. They would come back with, butt passes, so that clearly shows how much how much significance we have actually, done for that person. So that's what I think medicine is all about. I mean, when you look at it from my point of view. All right, I guess then I'll just share this sort of a presentation that I had actually prepared. I hope you guys can see it. All right, so it's just a sort of a presentation. I think I've been doing it for a while, where I talk about my life from Lyceum to ESMU and hopefully becoming a surgeon one day, becoming specialized in surgery.
Dr. Burhan?
Yeah.
Dr. Burhan, this is Amila. I think Dr. Umayang is having an urgent COVID shift, he told me in the morning. So if there's no more questions, we can release him.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, doctor. I mean, I know you are a very busy person, especially during the COVID pandemic. So thanks a lot for taking your time, and you came on board just to enlighten the students regarding various medical options. Thank you very much, doctor.
See you, Umayanga. Yeah, take care. All right, I'll just continue then, right? So I'm not going to take a lot of time. Yeah. Hold on. Right. So basically, what I want to emphasize with regard to what Intikab and Dr. Umayanga, that is, I actually refer to him as Umayanga because when I went back in 2010, he was one of the seniors who was there, and he was a very good friend of my blockmate, who was Dr. Buddhika. He's actually right now a registrar in Obs&Gen in DMH at the moment. So he was in his 5th year when I was in my 1st year. So basically, I've learned a lot through them, especially adjusting to the life out there, understanding what is very, very essential when you go into medical school, because these are the things that we do not know when we get into medical school. And I think, like the way Umayanga also mentioned, we didn't have this sort of, a sort of a support back in 2010, back in 2008, I think, when 2006 when he went, and 2010 when I went. We didn't have that much of a support like the support that is provided right now for all the students. And I think that's quite important because it kind of ensures that when you're done with medical school, that is not the end. It's going to, this whole support is going to be there until you qualify for a medical licensing exam. So either it can be in Sri Lanka or it can be in anywhere around the world, right? So what my plan is today to just explain to you based on the choices that I have made in Sri Lanka, and the way that I went to Belarus, and the things that I encountered. So I'll just stress on some important things when I actually talk about how it has been. So first of all, I never did my local A levels. I did my London A levels. Therefore, I had no opportunity in getting admission into university in Sri Lanka. Therefore, the only way that I could have actually got acceptance is if I had done my local A levels, which I didn't. Right. So I made sure that I was a part of a lot of extracurricular activities. I was a prefect. I took part in a lot of different events, like I'm sure the current students know Model United Nations. I was representing I represented Sri Lanka for another international summit, which was in Geneva. I think the photos are there afterwards, right? We took part. We did a lot of charity workshops, like did a car wash for, and donated the money to the Maharagama Cancer Hospital. Hosted a lot of events, right? This was when we were in actually Geneva, right? Again, this is also in the United Nations office in Geneva, right? This again is inside the United Nations, outside the United Nations building, right? So this is where I stop, where I tell you that at that point I was naive that if I did well in my A levels, I had good extracurricular activities, I would get a good scholarship in any foreign university. But I was actually wrong, because I found out that even with scholarships that are offered in Australia, UK, US, the process was very different. That is one. Second was, even with the scholarships, I don't think I could, I would say my parents would be able to be in a stance to afford the medical education, right? So which is why I resorted to these universities which are not that very expensive, and I kind of got a list of all the universities that were in my sort of budget, right? So I remember at that time, this was back in 2010, we didn't have these advertisements with, it was just a small advertisement. And I met this gentleman. His name is Dr. Darangan Bhaktasilan. He is the pioneer of International Medical Campus. He's, I think, the executive director out here. And therefore, he was the one who told me all the difference, which I'm sure all of you all should know by now, the difference between a MD and an MBBS, the difference between a private medical school and a state medical school, right? The type of, what you're going to learn out there, the essence of what is important when you go into medical school, which was all provided by him. So I had a fair knowledge before I went into medical school. So which is very, very important for all of you all as well, right? You all need to understand now, the number of universities have also increased. Earlier, those days, we only had one university in a country. Now you have around 5 6 universities in one country, which makes it even more difficult. And I completely understand how challenging that is to pick one based on so many different criteria. But I guess it again comes down to simply, thinking about the basic education that it provides, whether it is recognized by the Sri Lankan Medical Council if you're planning to come back to Sri Lanka. And thirdly, whether you've spoken to someone who has studied there, right? First-hand experience, someone who has studied there. And if you know that knowledge, the education that you get there is enough for you to come back and actually work in the particular country that you want to, finally settle into. Right, so that is very important, which I will not take a lot of time because it will take a long time for me to explain the difference of between the different structures. But it's very important that you speak to your counselors, or speak to the people who have got you into this session, and ask them these questions, because it is absolutely essential. And if you all want me to explain, I will do that on a later day, because I want to create an essence of how it was for me when I applied back then. Right, so these are just random photos, right, of just before I went to Belarus. This was, I think, I just celebrated my birthday on the 9th of October and flew on the 11th of October. When I went there, The structure was completely different. It was not like the way it was in Sri Lanka, where we were literally spoon fed right in school, where we are taught everything from the basics. Whereas in Belarus, the beauty of it is it's a very European sort of learning, where you learn what you think is important and based on your understanding. Initially it is very challenging, but that is very very important, because you have to understand that in the future there is not going to be teachers and professors who are always going to be there with your life. You need to pick up what's important, and that kind of comes into play when you start implementing all of that, when you meet patients and you pick up symptoms, right? So this is the essence of why a medical school will mold you. It's not just about learning, it's not just about getting yourself educated, but it's about the university being able to mold you in being a very qualified doctor, so that you will be able to quickly diagnose, you will be able to promptly go into an emergency medical situation and be able to provide the necessary treatment management plans. So that's the whole essence, right? So it's very important that the decision that you choose with a particular university, make sure that it is a university that provides you all of that, because you can't you because you're anyway spending a lot of money and you're spending a lot of time, right? And then recovering all of that is going to become very challenging, right? Therefore it is very important that whatever decision that you do take, make sure you take it with a lot of knowledge. Speak to these counselors, because some of them are very well aware of all the things. There are some things that I also don't know when it comes to different medical councils, but I'm sure Mr. Amila and Inti, they have sent students for a long time. Sometimes I also get to learn a lot through them. So speak to them, get those information, whatever questions that you have, get them. If you want to speak to someone who has graduated or is studying in that university, ask them that, so that they can provide it to you, so that you are well sure that okay, this university is providing me what is being promised, right? So things that I want to stop on is something that I always tell people is that make sure that you follow your passion, and it is not about you doing it because other people are asking you to do it, right? Because we also had in our batch, we had a student who had actually done it because of both her parents were doctors. That should not be the reason why you choose medicine. You shouldn't choose medicine. I'm sure Inti has told you shouldn't choose medicine just because the money, the pay is great in the future. No, it is the service. Always remember, it's going to be a service, and that service is so amazing. I'm talking about the appreciation that you get back in return. It's a feeling that I can't explain in words, but it's a feeling that will make you forget about all your personal problems, right? So that's how great it is to be working as a doctor. And it's even greater when you are able to save patients on a day-to-day basis, right? So one thing that I want to tell you is focusing on your aspirations. And I learned it the hard way when I was actually studying surgery. This is operative surgery and topographic anatomy, where I had my Professor Sharakova. So we that was the first time I got to hold a scalpel and sort of do a small surgery. And when I was suturing, I remember Professor Sharakova, she asked us, what do you want to do in the future? And I said that when I went into medical school, I wanted to do oncology. But after, holding a scalpel and, cutting through the different tissue levels, I realized that there is something about surgery that, is attracting me. And then she said, yeah, that's true, but you need to have the talent as well. And I was like, what do you mean, madam? And then she said that by looking at the way that you've put your sutures, doesn't look like you have the talent to become a great surgeon. I was kind of devastated when she actually said that, because it kind of hit me, because it was the first time someone has ever told me that I can't achieve what I want to achieve based on my general talent, right? So which was a little sad, because I was always very I had got the best of results when it came to A levels. I was doing very well in my medical school. I was topping the batch every year, right? And when a professor in my third end of third year, I'm actually fourth year, tells me something like this, I was a little sad because I was like, okay, even though I'm great at this, I don't think I'm good. I'm good enough to become a surgeon. But at that moment of time, I don't know what kicked in. I told myself that I'm gonna practice. I'm gonna practice day in and day out. And luckily, we had this. We have in operative surgery and topographic anatomy. We have this area where it's an area where you can go. So you don't get to suture on live specimen, but you have these mannequins. And in these mannequins, I practice day in day out. I would go and suture intestines. Like where you so that it was at least close to perfect. And I did that. I kept on doing that. And finally, there was a point when Professor Sharakova realized that it's not only talent, it's also about hard work, right? So what my end message is with regard to this story is that don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. Don't let anyone belittle you. Don't let any of those things decide on whether you want to do this or whether you want to do that. Make sure that you are passionate and determined about it. If you have those two qualities, and if you have this added hardworking ability, right, there is nothing that's going to stop you, right? So this can be with regard to choosing medicine in the first place, or it can be with regard to a specialization that you want to pursue. Okay, make sure that you have these three qualities and nothing is going to stop you from achieving your dreams, right? So that's how important it is, right? And in school, medical school, it's a lot that you learn, how you triage patient, and especially medical schools in Belarus, they teach you from the fundamentals, right? This something like this is very primitive considered in other universities, but it's very important because you never know where you are. Sometimes you do not even have a stethoscope and you see someone on the ground. So how you triage, how you are able to respond promptly, is very essential as a part of the university life or the medical university education curriculum, right? So I mean, it was an amazing 6 years that I had out there. I mean, it was not only studies, right? It was all about balancing it, because if it was always studies, I would have been depressed, because there were so many instances, like I think I mentioned earlier, where I would see friends of mine who have studied with me in school already, earning money, driving their own vehicles, whereas I was still in medical school, right? So because of that, it would always come to me like, have I chosen the right field that I want to go into? But like the only the reason the duration when I actually realized that it is the right decision is when I started working as a doctor, right? So that feeling, as I think I have emphasized over and over again, that feeling is something that cannot be explained in words, right? And you meet amazing people out there, you make friendships, right? And you meet people that influence you or inspire you to be better versions of yourself, right? Now, on the person on the right, right, that's Professor Adetskaya. She is the head of the obstetrics and gynecology department. You won't believe it. She suffered from ovarian cancer, and she had both her ovaries and her uterus removed. She was on chemotherapy, and she still came for classes to teach us. She still went for surgeries as the head of the department, right? That is the essence of being someone in the medical profession, right? You go on the right side, you have Professor Sarchik. He passed away recently. He was, I think, 96 years old when he passed away. When he was teaching us, he was 93 years old. You won't believe it, a 93-year-old surgeon at least performing one surgery a day. And he would come and he would teach more rather than do surgeries because of his old age, but he would be the first person to be seen in our early morning conferences, right? So this is the passion that these individuals had for medicine, and we learn through them that we want to be better versions of ourselves and be something like them. And that is what medicine is all about, right? And apart from that, I think on the left is Professor Olga. She was a pediatric professor, and now she is the head of the international department. On the right, you have Professor Faina Ivanovna. She is the vice dean of the foreign medical faculty in Vitebsk State Medical University, right? And as I said, it's all about other things also. It's not only about medicine. you got to balance it with, you know, other things that you can do. So I took part in university level MUN conferences, uh, went as a chairperson in the Security Council, Futuristic Security Council, Environmental Commission, and then finally went as a delegate as well. Also, there were other things within the Sri Lankan community where we celebrated Kalevila for Deepavali, we did Vesak, and I think this is something which is very significant because when I went into medical school, I couldn't even make myself an omelette. And when I was in my third year, I was invited from a TV program to make a Sri Lankan cultural dish. And I remember we made chicken curry and pol sambar, right? So again, this is how, you know, the independent lifestyle out there molds you, right? And then we took part in so many other things, like, you know, we had this sort of an awareness program for lung cancer, because lung cancer is the most predominant cancer in Belarus, and one of the biggest risk factors, as we all know, it is cigarette smoking. So we did not want to just send a message saying, okay, stop cigarette smoking, you know, you'll reduce the number of you'll reduce the number of patients, we'll reduce the number of patients we have with lung cancer, because that is already provided. If you look at a cigarette box, it has the first thing that you read, apart from it saying it's cigarette, it says smoking kills, but still patients still, you know, smoke it. So what we did was, we had this innovative idea where we would collect cigarettes, and in return we would give chocolates. And I remember we had collected around 3,000 to 4,000 cigarettes, and, you know, we dumped it outside the university area. So that was a way that we promoted what the impacts of cigarette smoking and how it can lead to lung cancer, right? So these are things that you will get to do, you know, in medical school. These are things that you will learn how important it is. It's not just about treating patients, it's about how you can prevent diseases, how you can educate others, you know. So these are important factors that need to be considered. Yeah, these are important factors that need to be considered before, you know, you making a decision in going to a medical school, right? Also, you know, you got parties, you know, theme parties, then you have night outs, freshers night, right? Aurudu, and finally it comes up to your, you know, final graduation, right? So this was when I graduated in 2016. And then when I came back to Sri Lanka, I sat for the ERPM. Luckily, I passed all my exams in one go. Was ranked in quite, I was ranked ninth or 10th from all the foreign medical graduates. And I like my internship. I did my internship in Balapitiya Base Hospital, right? So I did my internship in medicine 6 months and surgery 6 months, right? So that was where I, again, I learned a lot. You know, I realized that things that we learned in Belarus and things that we learned in Sri Lanka are pretty much the same, but the protocols are different, right? So that was a significant, that was what I needed to learn. Because if you look at a patient who we had in Belarus, if he had, this is for example, if he had a head injury, right, he would definitely indefinitely need a CT, right? But in Sri Lanka, we do not have the resources for every person who has a head injury to undergo a CT scan. Whereas we look at it clinically for 24 hours, and if we think that there is something suspicious, then only we actually send that patient for a CT, which is exactly the opposite of what happens in Belarus. So again, managements are different. Now, if you look at, again, another example, when it comes to heart attacks, right, the golden standard for heart attacks is you need to, you know, do something called a PCI, which is called a percutaneous coronary intervention, where you need to, you know, find the block and you need to remove the block. So this is done through an angiogram, right? Whereas in Sri Lanka, we cannot give it, we cannot provide it for every patient, and therefore we have a selective group of patients we do it for. Whereas in Belarus, it was provided for everyone, right? So again, that is because of the limited resources that we have in Sri Lanka. But again, we manage a lot of things which are not managed in Sri Lanka. Like I always say that if a doctor from the United Kingdom, okay, if a doctor from the United States or if a doctor from Belarus came to Sri Lanka and their first patient was a dengue patient, I will guarantee you that he will have no clue on how he can manage a dengue hemorrhagic fever or a dengue fever with leaking, because we have our own guidelines and we've learned them through experience, right? All our consultants who have contributed to our guidelines what we've learned through experience. And if you look at the death rates of dengue, they've completely drastically come down because of what we have learned through our experience. Right. So again, the advantages lie on both ends, but again, at the end of the day, it's all about the foundation that you got from your medical school. If you've got a good foundation, you can apply wherever, apply to wherever you want to actually practice, right? The clinical trainings are very important, right? Now, as I said, I was in Belarus, and in Belarus, the advantage is that all, as it is a state university, we practice in state hospitals. And when we are working in state hospitals, we are allowed to go to all the particular places in the hospital. That is one. And also the influx of patients that come into state hospitals are way more as compared to a private hospital. So that advantage is always going to be there, right? You get that first hands to hand exposure, right? Where you get to touch patients. Sometimes, patients can, in a private medical hospital, their patients, as they're paying money, they can say, I don't want the student coming and asking me questions or examining me. Whereas in the public way, or you can, or in a way, the government hospital or the state hospital, that sort of barrier is not there, right? So I mean, the same thing I think it's possible when you go to Malaysia. Malaysia also provides that sort of, setting where they get their training in state hospitals, right? Another very important thing is that if students who actually finish in Belarus and Malaysia, they can actually come here and either sit for the exams in Sri Lanka if they want to work in Sri Lanka, or they can go to a lot of other countries. Now, a lot of students who are actually going into my university, right, Vijay State Medical University, as it is not recognized at the Sri Lankan Medical Council right now, a lot of students still go there, and they create pathways to the United States of America, like UK, like Umayanga has actually explained to you, and Germany, Australia, right? So the pathways are there, but again, the most important thing is you need to think about those pathways as soon as you're in medical school. Like the way Umayanga said, now if you want to do the PLAB, which is the UK pathway, as soon as you finish, you can sit for the exam, right? The question is if you want to do a year of internship and then apply, or you can go directly and then do both your 2 years of internship, that is F1 F2 in UK. Same way, if you want to go to US, you need to prepare early, because US, you can sit for the exams while you're in medical school. So step one can be set while you're, end of third year, or starting of third year, right? So you can sit for the step one. And step two, CK part, you can sit while you actually, you are at the end of your fifth year. So when you finish, all you need to do is you need to apply, because now I think with the current guidelines, I mean current structure in the United States of America, they do not require you to complete step 2 CS, or nor do they want you to do step 3. So you can actually go there, work in a hospital, and while you're there in your first year, you can sit for your step 3, which is again amazing. It's an amazing pathway. So, a lot of opportunities are there if you look at it on that aspect, right? And again, with regard to everything that you learn in Sri Lanka, I realized I did not have a lot of barriers, because it was a pretty straightforward track, right? When you look at other places, when you look at US, Australia, UK, you need a little bit of support. And I think that is something that IMC will provide their students, because I remember I recently went again to VSMU. This was, I think, 2 years, I think 1.5 years back, because they had initiated something with the university, had invited Kaplan, which is one of the founding bodies who are actually helping students sit for USMLE, that is the United States Medical Licensing Exam. So they had tried to integrate Kaplan into the VSMU curriculum, so that students who are willing to go to United States of America and practice there, it will be easier for them, right? So this is all done through the service provider, and that service provider will be International Medical Campus. Therefore, there are a lot of benefits in that aspect, right? It is something now for someone who is not willing to, who is not wanting to go to other countries and come back to Sri Lanka, he or she will not have that much of a hurdle, but he or she will have a lot of personal problems back in Belarus, and will need a lot of countless support, right? Like, you need to be safe when you're there. and you will not know the language out there initially, and therefore that sort of help is quite essential, right? So these are a few more pictures of my internship when I was in Balapitia. uh, More pictures with senior house officers, and this was with our consultant Dr. Krishanta Jayasekara, I think one of the best consultant physicians in our country, and I've learned a lot. And they say that you get inspired by the people that you meet, and I've got inspired with the people I met in medical unit, and I got inspired with my teacher who was my consultant in during my internship. Learned a lot through him, and then later went to my surgical appointment, and I was under the guidance of Dr. Nilanga Pereira and Dr. Najija Samarasekara, both of which who have given me a lot of support and who have always provided me the possibility of carving my own dream, and that is actually to becoming a surgeon one day, hopefully, right? So that is my plans, right? So I hope that my presentation was a little fast. I wouldn't have gone this fast because I realized that there's a lot of time has been taken, and I just wanted to focus on the important points that are quite essential, which I feel very important when deciding a university or when taking the decision that whether you want to do medicine. Also, another thing that I do through IMC is that I have these classes that it's basically prep. It's a prep sort of a session that I do for students, so that students will stay motivated, will be passionate towards medicine. I teach theory, but mostly what I focus on is I try to promote this out of the box thinking, because the most important or most difficult part when you get into medical school is adjusting and being able to learn and how you learn it. And that is very difficult initially because it takes time to get used to the whole the mentality. How do you know that this is important and that is not important, and things like that I focus on, so that when they get into medical school it will be a very easy process. And that is the fundamentals or the basis of what the sessions that I do. So if you all are interested, you all are free to join. Just speak to your counselors and their counselors will help you out. I hope I have touched on all these things which I have felt are important. If there is anything else that you all want to know, or you all feel that I need to emphasize on, I can do so. Thank you for now.
So, thank you, Dr. Burhan. That was very interesting. So, guys, if y'all have any questions, y'all can put it in the chat box and ask from Dr. Burhan. Or y'all can unmute your mic and y'all can ask the questions.
Doesn't look like there are any questions, no?
Yeah, I don't think there are any questions. Guys, if there are any questions, y'all can ask it from Dr. Burhan. Y'all can either send a message or unmute your mics and ask it. I don't think so there are any questions.
Yeah, so basically one person has asked if VSMU is not recognized, how do we work in Sri Lanka? Very good question. Right, so VSMU is not the only university that is actually in Belarus. There is another university, which is the Grodno State Medical University, which is recognized by the Sri Lankan Medical Council. So basically the option would be to go to Grodno. The most important thing that you need to understand is VSMU is a state university. Grodno is also a state university. So when you ask me the difference between VSMU and Grodno, it's like you asking me the difference between the Colombo Medical Faculty and the Perideni Medical Faculty. So you understand it's pretty much the same. I mean, yeah, you can actually say this is better because it's in the capital. But again, at the end of the day, I remember some of my final exams were conducted by professors from Grodno, right? So again, the syllabus is the same. Everything is pretty much the same thing. So if in the case that you want to come back to Sri Lanka, then obviously, and as an intern, you can always actually go to university. I think it's very important that you go to a university that is recognized by the Sri Lankan Medical Council. So the reason that I spoke about VSMU with regard to the whole presentation is because I have first-hand experience in VSMU, and I know the education that is out there is fit enough for you to work in any other country. That being said, I understand that it is not recognized, right? And therefore, if you go to that university, you will not be able to come back here and work out here. But that is the same thing as going to Grodno, because pretty much what I have said will be the same in Grodno, because all of them are state universities, they are connected, syllabus is the same, the structure of teaching is the same, everything is pretty much the same in that aspect. But if you are going to Vitebsk State Medical University, if you're not interested, and if you still want to come back to Sri Lanka, right, then you can always, like we've all, I think we've said, even though not a lot of people do it, you can always become a consultant or a specialized doctor in a particular other country like UK or USA, and you can always come in the private sector and work through the consultant pathway and work in the private sector in Sri Lanka. So that is another option that you have.
We have a good news to share with. Most probably Vitebsk State Medical University also will come into the list again. So that's the news what we have heard so far. But if someone prefers Vitebsk State Medical University, still they can get registered with Grodno. And if Vitebsk comes into the list before the departure, they can always change without any additional cost. We can do that.
Are there any more questions?
So are there any more questions, guys? Y'all can send it in the chat box, or y'all can ask it directly, unmuting your mic from Dr. Burhan.
Ashwita, there's a unanswered question. I think there's one question. If I apply for MD with a biomedical degree, can I still have a chance to work in Sri Lanka?
Yeah,
Actually,
but then she's not online.
right. Okay. So they have to have A levels. If you right after the first degree, if they want to work in Sri Lanka, A level is a must. Even though they have a degree, if they don't have 2 Cs and a D for London A levels or 2 Cs and As for local A levels, they will not be able to work in Sri Lanka unless they become a consultant in the UK having CCT number, and then only through the specialist pathway they can work in the private sector.
Like Mr. Amila correctly said, that Sri Lanka is the only country out of all the countries that I've seen that it doesn't matter where you got your qualification. At the end of the day, your A-level results are quite important, which is very funny because if a person a Sri Lankan who has not done his A-levels has managed to go to a university in the United States, for example, the Yale Medical University, and wants to come back to Sri Lanka and work, I don't think he'll be eligible in working out here. So A levels is an absolute requirement, right? I mean, that is what the guideline, that is what the council wants, and that is what is expected of it. That is why it's always good to be safe than take the risk of going without the A levels and then seeing how it is. Things might change, but I don't think it will change in that aspect. I have a feeling that that things will get better to an extent, but the A-level results will always be something that will be a absolute prerequisite. There's another question that has been asked, how long is the resident training in Sri Lanka? So basically the way it works is you need to do your 1 year of internship, right, as soon as you're done. So as soon as you passed, for a foreign medical graduate, as soon as you pass, you get something called a provincial registration, saying that you're partially registered, right? And then you have to do your 1 year of internship, and you need to your consultants, both your consultants have to say, okay, I'm happy with the job that my HO has done, my house officer has done, and he has to sign. And therefore what happens is, when you're completing it, that is, you do 6 months, you complete it, then you will get your permanent registration, right? And you'll be registered in the Sri Lankan Medical Council, right? After you're done with that, from the date that you're done with that, you have to work another 1 year, 1 year of just, it can be any sort of, it depends on the specialization. It depends on the specialization. It can either be surgery or medicine or pediatrics or genonobs or whatever. You have to work for another year and then only you will be eligible to sit for these MD exams, right? So let's just say for example being surgery, you sit for the MD part 1 surgery exam, you pass it, then you become a registrar, right? After you become a registrar, you need to work for another 3.5 years and then you sit for your part 2 exam. After you pass that part 2 exam, you need to decide in which area of surgery you want to specialize in, right? So either it can be general surgery, it can be if onco, if it is plastics, it can be a lot of things. So you might have to do 1 year of specialization, right? And then you have to do 1 year of 1 or 2 years of mandatory foreign training. So you, I mean, like for example, when you're dealing with your postgraduate, it is you're dealing with the postgraduate of Institute of Medicine and College of Surgeons. If it's surgery that we are talking about, the College of Surgeons have associations with the NHS, with the Royal College of Surgeons, which is in the UK, and you might have to do another 1 year of training out there, and then only you will be referred to as a consultant or an attending. That's how it works in Sri Lanka. So again, it depends on the particular fee, I mean the specialization that you want to, but it takes time, it takes a lot of hard work. I mean, a lot of people now, I think I've seen that the trend is not to be, not the trend is, not to be working here, but going abroad. A lot of students don't have any interest in working here because one thing, as a lot of people say, that the amount of work that you do and the pay that you get is very, very, very out of proportion. And also the challenges that we have now. If you look at my story, I always say that I want to become a surgeon, and that has always been my dream. But I've also had a lot of hurdles down my line where I'm actually being put in COVID units where I'm working, and that has actually taken my focus somewhere else. And therefore, and I'm in a place where I'm a little quite far away. I'm in Galgamu at the moment, in the emergency treatment unit, as well as the nephrology unit, as well as the COVID unit. So the workload is quite difficult, and it's very stressful, which I feel that kind of makes you little deviated from your structure of where your specialization is. So I am trying to come to Colombo so that I can again sit for it, because I am eligible, but I have not sat for my exam yet. So again, the dream is still on, right? Don't ever let my end message is, don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't do it. As long as you're dedicated, you're determined, you're passionate, there's nothing that's going to stop you, right? So the process is long, but you will definitely get there. That doesn't matter, it can be in Sri Lanka or it can be in any other part of the world. Any more questions?
So I don't think there are any more questions over here.
So I guess, I think what you guys have to do, I mean, I think the end message of this is that you guys need to make a decision with regard to, whether you're going this year, whether you're going next year. Speak to your counselors, keep updated with regard to what is happening, what's new, and speak to them, get an appointment, talk to them, ask the questions that I've told you, emphasize on those questions, and make sure that you're absolutely certain that, okay, this is the place that I want to go. I guess as there are no questions, thank you very much. All over to you, Ashwita. Hello, Hussein.
So
I am still leaving in a bit. Okay, take your tea.
thank you guys for attending the event. So if you all have any questions regarding the registration or for applying for your universities, you all can speak to your counselors and fix a time and date to come and meet us.
Ashwita, any final stuff?
I can't hear you, Mr. Intikab.
Okay. Shall we close it off?
Yeah, so guys, if you all have any ideas of applying for the universities and to know more procedures of it, you all can speak to your counselors, including me, Sumaya, or Mandarika. Okay, so thank you for attending the event.
Thanks a lot, guys. We will be uploading this online, and I hope you guys benefited with the sessions which we had today. So you can collect the video on YouTube, and probably I'll catch you guys later. Speak to your counselors for an appointment. Don't get delayed, as they explained. We have a short time period to apply for the universities. Take care, guys. Have a nice day.